My name is Jamie Robinson. I'm an ISSA, that stands for International Sports and Sciences Association, certified personal trainer.
One and only Arnold Schwarzenegger.
I ate a lot of meat. They showed us commercials.
Steak. That's what a man eats.
Selling that idea that real men eat meat.
Serious man food.
But you got to understand, that's marketing. That's not based on reality.
I've been teaching fighting techniques to government agencies for more than 15 years. Then I got injured. Unable to teach for at least 6 months, I spent more than 1,000 hours studying science on recovery and nutrition, and stumbled across a study about the Roman gladiators.
The gladiators were predominantly vegetarian.
How could the original professional fighters be so powerful, eating only plants?
When I made the switch to a plant-based diet, I qualified for my 3rd Olympic team. I broke 2 American records. I was like, man, I should have done this a long while ago.
When I went plant-based, I wasn't sure if I was gonna survive. And I actually became like a machine.
One of the biggest misconceptions in sports nutrition is that we have to have animal protein to perform at a high level. That's just not true.
Sometimes you have to do things that you know your competitors aren't doing.
Today's blood and yesterday's blood. Them.
I think this is going to wake a lot of people up.
I was recovering better, not getting as sore. This was our best season in the last 15 years, and we had 14 guys on plant-based diets.
We all want to feel great, have more energy.
Cholesterol was 276. Today, 169.
Whoa, now you're talking.
Most guys my age can keep up with the grandchildren. My grandchildren can't keep up with me.
It's not one set of dietary guidelines for improving your performance as an athlete, another one for reversing heart disease, reversing diabetes. It's the same for all of them.
Someone asked me, how could you get as strong as an ox without eating any meat? And my answer was, have you ever seen an ox eating meat?
I have certifications in obviously fitness training, corrective exercise, fitness therapy, sports nutrition, and as well as I'm getting ready to start PRI, which is Postural Restoration Institute. So I'll be dealing a little bit more in the physical therapy realm, dealing more with pelvic, breathing, pelvic alignment, and imbalances in that region. You know, core stability, dealing with diaphragm, things like that. So it's really about building from the core, the pelvis, and working your way out to address physical imbalances and ultimately joint pain where you're experiencing it.
One other question. Go ahead, sure.
What about S.O.S.?
Salt, oil, and
S.O.S.
sugar.
is when you fall off a boat and nobody comes to get you. Actually, wasn't it Jack on the Titanic? And everybody argues that Jack could have gotten on that piece of wood. So he shouldn't have frozen. Don't you agree? He shouldn't have frozen. And she should have gotten in that boat so he could have had that piece of wood. Sorry, I just thought I'd throw in a little.
I think it's important. This is an interesting question because salt, oil, and sugar are.
So I can jump on that.
Yeah, and I think just to follow up, a lot of the medical voices in the film were talking about a whole food plant-based diet, which is what we teach about in community. And then you see the picture of the Tennessee Titans eating all this amazing mac and cheese and fried tempeh or whatever it is, and then the question is that actually healthy, even though
that is that perfect example. So no, it's not healthy, and you don't want to have a lot of salt, you don't want to have a lot of oil, and you don't want to have it's salt and sugar. Thank you. Yeah, you don't want to have a lot of salt, oil, and sugar from added sources. So if you eat a lot of dark leafy greens, I'm a nutrient-dense guy, and I tell my patients when they have a smoothie that's nutrient-dense and they get their levels up, and I can objectively measure them, I'm going to give them a water bottle or a smoothie bottle that says you're dense and in parentheses nutrient-dense. So, or just nutrient. But the point is, I'm a nutrient-dense guy, and you can get so much sodium naturally from dark leafy greens. So if you eat a lot of dark leafy greens in a day, you can get 900 milligrams of sodium from dark leafy greens, but they're balanced out with potassium chloride and all these other wonderful things that don't throw off your sodium. And you can get fats. There are fats. Have you heard of an avocado? Has anyone heard of an avocado? And there's something called olives if you don't eat them with a lot of salt. I tried it in Portugal with no salt. It was totally bitter. I didn't know what it tasted like. Does anyone else know what it tastes like with no salt?
No.
But anyway, if you could get it with no salt, they have plenty of fats in it as well. But there are nuts, seeds, they all have plenty of fat. So but they're better fats. But overeating fats is still bad, even if they're good fats. Except for him, maybe he needs more fats.
No, but I'm not. That's the thing, though, is I'm on a higher carb. It's actually like 3 carb, protein, and then fats.
I was just going to say, even Jamie, though, probably needs to lower the fats. Do you guys know who T. Colin Campbell is? He wrote the China study. Yep. He believes that it should be 80-10-10. 80 carbs, 10 protein, and 10 fat. Now, that's deceiving because the 80% that's carbs has protein and fat in it as well. So how do you say 80-10-10? Because you can't divide it out. We don't eat micronutrients or we don't eat macronutrients in isolation. The only time we eat macronutrients in isolation is when we eat just pure sugar. Then we're eating pure carbs. There's no such thing as really eating macronutrients in isolation. So I think that if you can get the salt, oil, and sugar from natural sources, it's great, because there was a study done that gave people who were elderly, who had heart failure, no salt diets, medium salt diets, and high salt diets. The medium salt diets did fine, the high salt diets did worse, and the no salt diets died. And they didn't stop the trial, which is amazing to me because people were dying in the middle of it. So you can't have no salt, but you want to get salt from sources that are not added.
Great. Yeah,
Tonight,
thank you. Yeah.
Just real quick. So the reason I brought the meals, because that's literally a meal. I eat 2 of those a day, and not every day, but pretty much, I'd say 5-6 days out of the week, I'm pretty consistent with the meals that I eat, except for when my wife cooks vegan lasagna and all this great stuff. And, but the point is that actually when you look at, like, for example, tempeh, which is a fermented soy, so it's like millet, barley, brown rice, so it's actually, relatively, you would think, really high in carbs, but here's the thing, is it's a fermented soy, so that's good for the gut bacteria, right? So that was a whole block of tempeh. That's 40 grams of protein in the tempeh alone, but it's also 32 grams of carbohydrates. So when you combine that with a higher protein, what we would consider a higher protein carbohydrate like quinoa, compared to brown rice, which is higher carb, lower protein, right? This is a way to start to take foods that are plant-based and combine them to create more complete protein, the 9 essential amino acids that the body needs to repair muscle, right? We're talking about repairing of tissue, and to supply your body with the energy which we get from carbohydrates stored in the muscle and liver as glucose, as glycogen, and the glucose is readily available for us to be able to move around, to blink, to breathe, everything, right? So we need these carbohydrates. Some need more than others, and that's to your point. If you're very active, there's actually a calculation that you can do depending on if you work a labor job, if you live in New York City walking everywhere, compared to if you work an office job and you live in Florida driving everywhere. You're not going to need the same amount of calories and the same ratio of macronutrients, being carbs, fats, and proteins, as somebody who lives in New York, like myself, walking everywhere, up and down stairs, lifting weights, playing the drums multiple times a week. I need it. I need to repair my body. So I'm in 3,500 to almost 4,000 calories a day. Now,
he's in the insane category.
And I'm lean. I'm relatively lean for as much as I eat, because I burn it off. So the point is, the reason I say that is because we're talking about the ratio of fat, protein, and what is too much. And really, when it comes to, for example, carbohydrates, if you're eating a fast releasing carbohydrate and you're about to go to the gym and work out, that's not a bad thing, because you're going to use up the energy. You're going to use it up, especially if you're training vigorously. Now, it's a little different, I think, when it comes to endurance. You don't want to overeat, but when you're training anaerobically with resistance, you need energy. You need energy. And then you need to repair after. So you actually need a carbohydrate that actually elevates your insulin, right? Because insulin is in the blood, because that's the main transporter of amino acids back to the muscle to repair the tissue. That's the idea, so that you repair your body, so you can get back to being more active without inflammation. Now you couple that with antioxidants, which help reduce inflammation. My friend Mark here, let me point him out because he's very knowledgeable as well. He's a whole foods, plant-based nutritionist, coach, chef, everything. He, you know, he brought my attention to when you combine a healthy fat with black pepper and you know, like turmeric, for example, like the curcumin in the turmeric, it actually increases the bioavailability of the curcumin in the turmeric by 2,000%. So that it's all about, when it comes to ingesting food, it's a 4-step process: ingestion, digestion, absorption, and utilization. So if your body's not absorbing this stuff, what's the point? What's the point? It's not doing its job, right, on a cellular level. So the idea is that our bodies actually absorb and utilize what we're putting into our bodies. So just remember that. So there is a science to it. If you want to build muscle, if you want to have a lot of energy, if you don't want to feel sluggish, it all is contingent on your current lifestyle and the food you choose to put in your body.
Thank you, Jamie. We're going to have a time at the end if anybody wants to come and chat with our panelists tonight. I want to leave it the last words with Elvira here. I want to ask you specifically, because there are some students here. When you talk to young people about how to fuel their bodies but also have great athletic performance, what's special about how you speak to them and motivate them with your approach to nutrition and fitness that you'd like to leave with everybody tonight?
Well, I'll start off with this. A lot of athletes are like, Elvira, how old are you? Are you a high school athlete? I'm like, no. Well, I think some of you guys probably noticed that coaches come up to me like, how old are you? I'm like, I'm close to 30. They're like, what do you do? I'm like, well, I eat a plant-based diet. And they're like, no, that's not why. But they can be many reasons for why I look younger than maybe my age. But one of the things that I noticed that kind of gets kids motivated, or younger athletes, I have a few here, they're in high school. So I coach about 100 athletes per session at the Armory in the Upper West Side. And a lot of them don't know about food nutrition. I see a few of them going to McDonald's after practice, and I'm like, what are you guys doing? But that's all they know, and I get the same thing. So I think what works is, one, that they see my Instagram posts, they see how fit I am, and I do all these things. I competed in skateboarding, I was a gymnast, I ran track. So I think that does kind of motivate them, but also I totally understand the challenges that they face because they're in high school, they don't buy their own food, and also a social aspect of that. It's difficult, but now with Meatless Mondays in schools in New York City, I'm not sure if you guys have that at your schools, but I think they implemented it on Mondays. I think that kind of sparks some, some questions. They're like, is this really helping us? And one thing I encourage you guys to do is, if you're interested in eating more plant-based diet, and if you don't have options in school, is, maybe write a letter to your school intendant or someone and say, hey, we want more plant-based options available to us, and start from there.
That's great, yeah, and I think that leaves us in an interesting place where we each have the power. This is why we call it Plant-Powered Metro New York. We each have the power to make choices. Sometimes it's harder to put plants in the center than at other times because of the food culture that we live in. But there's a lot we can do in our own lives, and a lot that we can also do for others in the community to try to bring this information out and to stand up for our own health and the health of those who are around us, who we love and who we work out with. But I want to thank everybody for coming tonight, and there's some literature over here for those of you who are newer to plant-based nutrition. You're welcome to pick it up, and the orange flyers include some upcoming educational things that we'll be doing. I want to make a quick note that we're starting a 21-day jumpstart program to help people make a complete transition to a healthy plant-based diet. It's going to start this Sunday, so if you want to sign up, do it right now, because we're getting everything ready for Sunday. And then next Tuesday, we're also doing a program specifically on heart disease.
Just to finish with one thing?
Yeah, sure.
To answer the question about the Titans and what they're eating and stuff like that, we never got to that answer because I went on my tangent, which is the first sign of psychosis. It's okay, don't worry about it, I'm fine. Yes, I'm fine. But actually, to answer the question, there was a study done that showed on a graph, it was comparing meat eaters to vegan, and what it showed was that meat eaters have a higher risk of heart disease, no surprise, and vegans have a lower risk of heart disease. But then they delineated out between healthy and unhealthy vegans, and what they showed was that the healthy vegans dropped the line even more, like double the line down the risk, and that unhealthy vegans went above the meat eaters. So don't think just because you might eat vegan or you might replace it with vegan, you could still be at high risk for heart disease if you're not eating a healthy vegan diet.
Which means fries, that's, you know,
yes, you should be eating fries.
Yeah, you don't want to be eating that, what I'm saying.
Yes, right.
That's not.
Lianna, you mentioned about what the Titans were eating.
Yes.
Actually, it was all plant-based. It looks like it's not,
Right.
but it's actually all
Like
plant-based.
fried wings and things like that.
It's baked. It's baked. It's not fried. And if you go to GameChangersMovie.com, you can click on recipes, and you'll have a whole bunch of recipes at your fingertips to start with.
Great, thank you for pointing that out. All right, so thank you for coming. Feel free to approach us with any questions. Have a great night.